Many people buy and sell guitars online, and there are so many brands you can't wrap your hand around. Today I'm going to save you some time and give you the answers. Which brands are cheaper, higher in quality, and overall better to buy. And all that's going to be based on data science. We've already downloaded all the data we needed from reverb.com. Today we're going to be processing the data sets to find if Gibsons are better than Fenders or Ibanezes. What's the plural of Ibanez? Let me know in the comments. The previous video was more nerdy and about the code. This video is going to be less about the code and more about statistics, because isn't it fun? I'm going to try and come up with specific recommendations, some actionable things you can do to maximize your chances of buying a better guitar. Oh, and by the way, I'm Vadusha and I'm the greatest expert on guitars and data science in the entire world, and maybe even on YouTube. In case you got bored watching the previous video, we got some columns that contain some data. There's an overall of 54,000 lines. There's the ID to recognize unique entries. There's the make, which is the guitar brand like Fender or Gibson. There's the model, which is Telecaster or SG and this kind of things. There's the year when the guitar was manufactured, which shortens down our list, by the way. There's the title parameters. I'm not sure if we need them. There's the condition, and you want to know if it's mint or brand new, or if it's good, or if it participated in a fight. Then there's the price, the category, of which we have 4: electric guitar, acoustic guitar, electric bass, and acoustic bass. Yep, that's 4. And the publication date and condition rank, where 1 is non-functioning and 9 is brand new. That's what we're working with. And before we start, we need a function to process that. We import the visuals. This one's for fast charts, and this one's to edit those charts in a flexible manner. Totally recommend. This function will give us a nice distribution with control limits and confidence interval mapped on the distribution itself. First, we calculate the median, get the confidence interval for the median, then get the actual values for the lower confidence interval boundary and upper confidence interval boundary. Set up the control limits as plus minus 3 sigmas from the median. Plot the histogram, add vertical lines to map medians, confidence intervals, and control limits. Did you study statistics at school? How was it? Did you like it, or are you a normal person? I'm sure you came here for the pricing. So let's analyze the pricing parameter. Here's the distribution we get if we apply the function we just wrote to the price. We can barely see anything there, but we can make assumptions that the price range ends in the 300,000s. So up here you see the bulk of data, but we're not interested in those. Let's explore the very, very expensive guitars. The ones above the control limit, which is around 12,000. Isolating anything above 12,000, a little bit below 500 guitars. And these guitars skew our data set. See, it's not symmetrical. It's like a slide going far out to the right. I bet you wish you could get on a slide made of guitars. How about we see the most expensive guitar? Okay, so these are pretty expensive. This one's almost 400,000. I did some Googling and this is what I found. This Fender is not your average Fender. This is a complete collection. So these are like 6 guitars or what? Still very expensive, but not as expensive as it seems. Okay, got it. This one, the Leech, the Great Wall. No idea what this is, and it is this guitar with fancy dragons on it. Don't you want a guitar with fancy dragons? Look at it, it's absolutely gorgeous. So nicely painted. I bet it also plays well, and all you need to get it is a bit below 200,000. Go get yourself one. Too bad there's only one left, you could have bought 2. Next one is the Gibson SG. Wow, the price is huge. As far as I understand, this is the actual Gibson SG played by Angus Young. That explains the price. I don't know if you know, but when you buy a guitar like this, the talent and the skill of the player does not transfer to the buyer. So just in case, if you have extra money, don't think you're going to become a better guitar player just because you buy an Angus Young Gibson SG. Sounds like a good deal to me. Next one is this Fender Telecaster, 1968, in excellent condition, $150,000. And it is Mike Bloomfield's Fender Telecaster. So again, an artist-owned guitar. That explains the price, and there's a discount, so hurry up and buy it. 25,000 disc, you could buy like 25 guitars with that. Hurry up before someone gets it before you do. But I know why you're here. You're looking at the most expensive guitar, and that's Gibson by Eric Clapton. Let's see what it is. This is an entire collection again, not fair, I think. So you get an amp and a bunch of guitars, all related somehow to Eric Clapton. Well, I guess if you're a fan of Eric Clapton and have some extra dough, this one's up for you. Not me though. How about we reverse the thing and look at the cheapest guitars, because it's also fun. All right, let's go. Ibanez. Okay, this is not playable. Body with no tuners, no nuts or anything. No strings, no bridge. Just a body and a fretboard attached to it. No real value there unless you want to experiment with guitar construction. Pretty cheap though. The next one is a knob. I thought we filtered out the knobs, but they're sneaky. I wrote a note to the developers and what they said, this is a bug. Sometimes people assign their listings to wrong categories. This is the case. It says it's a guitar, it's clearly not. So we tried our best to filter those out. Sometimes we failed. Next one up is a neck plate, which is not a guitar again. It's nice though. Look at the pattern. Leopard. High gloss. I think if you state the wrong category, you're cheating there. And the platform needs to ban you from ever posting on it. If you do this, shame on you. Next one up. Finally, a guitar. This looks like a classical acoustic guitar. A very, very cheap one. Daisy Rock. Beginner level, and it's damaged. So there's crack on the headstock. It's very blurry and I don't like it. It was damaged in shipment. Looks nice though. Pink and zebra. Time for the cheapest guitar, and it's Disney Princess. So it's a 3/4 guitar, so it's a smaller one for kids, for girls' room, wall hanger. If you want to make your background appear as if you're playing guitars, never buy this. This is not a guitar. You're not gonna play it ever. Nobody gonna think you're a musician if you have one of these at home. They might probably think you're a girl. Well, this is sexist. I'm not gonna say it's a girl. It does look nice, but I'm not buying it just because it looks nice. It has to play for me to buy it. Though the frets look like they're actual frets. Look at it. Yes, they do. It does look like an actual... Okay. There's no tuners there, but if you installed the tuners and used actual strings, you might make it into a guitar. Don't tie your strings like that. It has ropes for strings. Actual ropes. Look at it. I think you could convert it into a guitar, though the playability and the action and the intonation may be off. But if you want a pink guitar in your background, like I have 2 guitars in the background and you never know if they're playable at all. Okay, but it's cheap. It's below 15 bucks. On to the code. If we study the chart here, we can confidently say if you want to ask your parents for money to buy a guitar, you're below 1,000. That's for sure. Because the median price is 1,000. And for 1,000, you're getting a very, very nice guitar. But for about 300 to 400, you're still gonna get a playable guitar and probably enough variety to choose from. Next up, we have a number of parameters we can compare against each other. And today we're looking at the very first one, the make, the guitar brand, the Fender, Gibson, Ibanez, PRS, these kind of things. Time to find out what is the most popular guitar brand. What brands are more popular than others? What brands have more listings? And there's around 4,000 guitar manufacturers on the website. So we totally need to narrow this list down because I don't want to sift through 4,000 brands. To illustrate, let me bar chart the whole thing. So on this axis, we see every single manufacturer with many of them skipped. And we can zoom in here to see the distribution appearing. And there's plenty of them still here. You see, we keep zooming in. Now that's about the scale when we start seeing the actual makes there. There's plenty of them. Let's narrow down the list. I'm thinking top 50. We're gonna count the brands in the top 50 range and we're gonna assign the rest of them to the other brands and map it there. Now we see every brand nice and clear, with Fender leading the competition, followed by Ibanez, PRS, Squire, and then goes Gibson and Martin and Schecter and Takamine. How do you read that? There's a list of brands we all know and love. Music Man is closing the list. For further research purposes, we're going to add a brand count parameter to the table because the price may be affected by how many guitars of this particular brand are there on the platform. Because if there's too many Fenders, they may be cheaper. Who knows? You know, demand and supply and So we turn the make counts into a dictionary and then map the make count column using this dictionary with the lambda function. Pretty simple. Next one up is the year of production. Not every single listing has the year, so we're going to narrow down the data set to those guitars that do have the year listed. And if we build a distribution chart by year, we can clearly see they start in the 1200s? Ah, those pre-medieval guitars. There's gotta be some errors there. There's a bump in the 1980, 1990. Any explanations? There's more guitars in 1918 to 1919 than there is in 1998 to 1999. What? Okay, there's gotta be an error somewhere there. And even this is not the most interesting thing there. If you were paying attention, you could see that we actually have some guitars in the future, 2040. But let's eliminate any guitars coming from the future. So these are the future guitars. I'm not sure what the author of the listing meant, but that's clearly an error. And we'll explore anything older than 1918 to see if there's any errors in that as well. And these are clearly some modern guitars like Schecter. No Schecters in 1408. Ah, milady, let me play you my Schecter. Did some manual research, pulled the IDs from the guitars that are not medieval, that are not actual old guitars like those Stags there. I'm not sure why they're marked as 1800. Removing these from all the data sets we have. And that's what we're left with. There's some older guitars, there's a bunch of newer guitars. You're most likely to buy something pretty recent, starting 2019 and newer. There's a few guitars that are like very old, pre-1900s, and there's peaks at even years, because that's the way we calculated the years when we were given the range. We used the youngest year of the range. Now, if we subtract the year of production from today's year, we get the age, how old a guitar is. Let's see the distribution of ages, which should be the opposite of the distribution of years. And it is. Younger guitars there. Your guitar is most likely to be younger than 4 years. Now it's time to compare brands. Which brand has the oldest guitars and which has the newest? We're not going to be comparing all of the brands. We'll take the top brand list. For that, we'll need a special function that'll build a bar chart with confidence interval margins and tell us if a certain brand is above the median or the mean or below it. This function is pretty complicated, so we're going to use either the median or the mean. The median is by default. It creates a dictionary of central tendencies, means or medians, and confidence intervals, which we'll later on use for the bar chart and for the margins. Then it calculates the overall central tendency and assigns a certain label to whether it's above the overall center or below it. Then it plots a bar chart, adding all the lines we need. Let's see an example of how it works. We run the function, writing it to a variable, comparing central tendencies for those guitars that have year data stated. We're looking at age distribution per brand list, and here's the brand list we just made. We're using the top 20 brands, because over 20 is not visually analyzable, you know. And there's the results. Yamahas are the oldest guitars. Their median age is 20. I mean, 20 years, and that makes sense because Yamahas don't really make a lot of guitars today. They used to, but they don't. Gibson is pretty old as well, 15 years, while Fender seems pretty young. I mean, 2 years on average, which is very low. I would expect Fenders to be a bit older as well. This could mean that people tend to sell their guitars older. They use their guitars for longer periods of time there in this part of the diagram, and people tend to sell these newer. They don't like their PRSs and go sell them. There's got to be an explanation to that. This implies you not buying Fenders or PRSs or Sires or Taylors. Sir, did you read that? You don't buy those green guitars because people tend to sell them very soon after they've bought them. So you better buy a longer lasting guitar, one of these brands. Something seems to be odd with this chart. We'll see if it changes later on. And if you like these kind of videos, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow and it makes me happy. Thank you. Next one up is condition, where 1 is non-functioning and 9 is brand new. We all want our used guitars to be mint in condition, but we can't always find one. Let's see what we got. Condition per brand. And I spent some time tweaking the chart and I had to use the mean for the central tendency. We zoom in there, you can see the difference. The differences are not that drastic. The guitars to the left tend to be in better condition. The guitars to the right tend to be in worse condition. The green ones are below average. The blue ones are above average in condition. Fenders are normally sold in better condition than Gibsons. One more thing I had to do there is to filter out the brand new guitars so that we have just the used guitars. And my thought was we got the ages above with new guitars in the dataset. So Fender may be selling a lot of new guitars, which skews its median closer to 0 in age. How about we exclude this data and see if the ages change? See just the used guitars, because we don't want those brand new guitars, right? And that did change the picture. Fender's got older, and the median age is now 8 years, which is closer to what I'd expect from a used guitar. And then Gibsons are 18, so still twice as old. I mean, why are Gibsons twice as old as Fenders? I still tend to think that the closer to the left of the chart, the longer the owners don't sell the guitar. So they keep playing the guitar, and the longer the guitars tend to last. And it still seems you don't buy Sire guitars, because their even used guitars are sold pretty fast. Next one up is the category, and we have 4 categories: electric guitars and electric basses, acoustic guitars and acoustic basses. Let's see the proportion, which are the most common on Reverb. And over half of all guitars sold are electric guitars, followed by acoustic guitars, then by electric basses and acoustic basses. Not very many acoustic basses though. Let's say you want to buy a bass. Which brand are you most likely to pick? So for every category in unique categories, we count how many listings there are on Reverb and then print the top 5 brands that manufacture this category of guitars. For electric guitars, you go with Fender, PRS, Squier, Ibanez, and Gibson. For bass guitars, you go Ibanez, Fender, Sire, Epiphone, and Spectre. Is Spectre a well-known bass manufacturer? I've never heard of that. For acoustic bass guitars, you go for Ibanez, Dean, Ortega, Warwick, and generic basses. Well, acoustic bass guitars are not something you see too often. So I guess there's a lot of handcrafted acoustic basses. That's why this empty manufacturer is there. Acoustic guitars, Martin leads the line, Takamine, Fender, Taylor, and Yamaha. If you were to choose just one manufacturer, you'd probably go with Fender, because it makes acoustic guitars, bass guitars, and electric guitars, and it's in the top 5 always. It's not in the top 5 for acoustic basses, but who needs an acoustic bass anyway? I know you're here for the pricing. Let's see which brands are the most expensive and which are the cheapest. Applying the same function, there's the prices. The most expensive is Gibson with $4,000. Why so expensive? Why are Gibsons so expensive? I mean, the median price is $4,000. Isn't it too expensive for a Gibson? What's wrong with Gibson? While Fender is still pretty expensive, averaging at a little above $1,500. While Fender's Squier is the cheapest among top 20 brands. So the ones in green are the cheapest ones, the ones in blue are more to the luxury spectrum. You're very likely to buy a Squier under $500 bucks. But this graph includes the new guitars. Let's filter those out, and here's what we're left with. Gibsons are still expensive, nothing changed. Fenders went down a little bit. Squiers are still cheap, and Chords cheap as well. There you have it. These are the top brands listed in descending order by price. Next time we're gonna analyze age and see if newer guitars are in better shape than older guitars, and if older guitars are more expensive than the new guitars, and we'll see which are older, basses or electric guitars or acoustic guitars. And I'm absolutely sure you will find your perfect guitar, because you're awesome. Yes, you are.